So who's worse, Gale or President Snow? I mean, obviously President Snow, but it doesn't feel like it. You know, like if you were to actually look at the Hunger Games fan pages and see all of the things that people talk about, the vast majority of the time, everybody can agree that we fucking hate Gale. And I'm going to talk about why. If this is your first time seeing me, hello, my name is Evelyn Kay. I'm about to talk about something that I find interesting, whether you find it interesting or not. You're still here, so let's go. Also, spoilers for the Hunger Games series, I guess, kind of as a whole. I'm going to be talking about most of it. If you aren't aware about it, I don't feel like I have to give you a spoiler warning. You clicked on a Hunger Games video, girly. So first of all, let's look at this question objectively, right? Before we get into why there's so much feeling there. Gale versus Snow, in terms of kill count that they are responsible for, Snow has definitely got him beat, especially a lot of those being children, although Gale did give him a run for his money, if you remember, in Mockingjay, whenever he did propose and help them follow through with the plan to cut off the nut, with like the ventilation shafts and everything, and basically everyone was like, dude, that could kill everyone inside, and he's like, yeah, honey, I thought you were on our side. And then, of course, you know, a certain bomb on a certain little sister kind of didn't help anything, right? But if we think about it, sheer numbers, under President Snow's presidency, just the Hunger Games alone, let alone his assassinations, his hangings and bombings and all this other bullshit, right? That is necessary for him to be a dictator. I don't even know how to do the math of how many children have died, right? Even just in Katniss and Peeta's games, it was 22 tributes in 1 year, 22 children. So I think even though Gale did some kind of bad things in wartime, President Snow still has him beat in terms of legitimate kill count. Also, one of the best defenses that I can come up with, because don't get me wrong, I also hate Gale, we're gonna get there. But one of the best defenses I can come up with is he was also technically a child for the entire trilogy, I'm pretty sure. I could look up facts, but I'm not going to. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I was wrong. Gale is 18 throughout the entire series, and I literally cannot believe that I fucking forgot that. But he is still basically a minor. He is so close to being a minor that if like an adult was dating him, we'd still be suspicious. So whenever I say that he's a minor, just pretend that I'm talking about being in the coal mines and or being a young adult that we can still excuse being a little bit stupid and naive and dropping bombs on little sisters. Okay, cool, bye. So blaming acts of war on a literal child, technically, on a child soldier, feels like a little bit of a cop-out, I'm not gonna lie. Whereas President Snow, his brain's been fully cooked. Kind of literally, but you know what I mean, like fully cooked, both by time and poison.
Oh! Oh! He needs some milk!
So he has no excuse for his actions, you know what I mean? Although, Girly Pop, being a minor does not excuse you of being a murderer. And also, another thing objectively, is President Snow typically would enact violence for his own political gain, whereas Gale would enact violence in order to do what he thought was best for the greater good, you know? So even though they were both doing violent things that ended up with people and sometimes children dying, they were doing it for different reasons, one of them being selfless, one of them being selfish. I think I pointed to the wrong directions. Editing me, sorry. Okay, I think that's all I can do in defending Gale. Anywho, let's get to why everyone fucking hates him. First of all, let's admit, a little bit of it is kind of for the bit, right? It's a little bit of like an inside joke in the Hunger Games community that like everybody fucking hates Gale. Kind of the same way that like Prim dying has become a joke. It's really fucked up, actually. I'm reassessing how young I was when I was making my child death jokes for the first time with this series. That might have changed some things in my brain chemistry that I don't want to admit. Anyway, so part of it is for the memes, and obviously with the series ending, with Katniss and Peeta getting together, there was like some push and pull in the series, but like going back and rereading it, it kind of never seemed like Katniss and Gale were ever endgame. Like, even in the first book, in their scenes together before Katniss goes into the games, they have enough of fundamental disagreements that it doesn't feel like they're very compatible. It just kind of feels like they are bound together by necessity, which anybody who has had relationships like that, romantic or not, knows that once those necessity bounds are gone, doesn't last very fucking long. So, like, there's that. I also think part of the reason why the memes kind of happened was a little bit of the actor who played Gale, a certain Hemsworth, that people kind of decided to also hate. Definitely didn't help anything, you know? I can't even remember all of the reasons why we hated him. I know he was a dick to Miley, which, like, girl, you can't be a dick to Katniss and Hannah Montana. Pick a struggle, bud. Jesus.
You burn with us.
So that definitely didn't help anything. But okay, what I actually have written down as like the reason why I feel like there's so much more hate for Gale than there is for Snow in terms of like sheer mass of people talking about it in the Hunger Games fandom is hating Snow feels like hating a historical dictator, and hating Gale feels like hating your bestie's asshole ex. One is obviously worse than the other in terms of end result, but the other you've spent way more time fixated on. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. Cause like, yeah, objectively being a dictator that kills people regularly all the fucking time, even being, some of them being your political allies that could eventually become enemies, literally selling children who do survive your death games into something I probably can't say on YouTube, a very bad type of traffic. Like, we all know that shit's horrible, but I think that's another reason why Gale has gotten so much more hate over the years. I do think Songbirds and Snakes spiked some of the hate that President Snow got, because, like, objectively, Snow has killed a fuck ton of people, the vast majority of which being children, and also, like I said, Gale does still have a body count. If we're counting Snow as responsible for the Hunger Games, or at least not stopping the Hunger Games, then I think that we could also count Gale as responsible for the casualties of the Nut, which was fucking catastrophic from what I heard. And not to mention extremely triggering for Katniss, which, like, that was already, that, like, built the coffin. And then, of course, him inventing the bomb for Prim was the final fucking nail, right? I mean, he didn't obviously invent it for Prim, but, like, it's complicated, because he definitely is a little bitch for doing that. But also, again, he was still technically a child when he invented the bomb, and he was working with Beatty, which I feel like a lot of people don't bring up whenever they talk about the bomb. They completely gloss right over that fact, you know what I mean? Because Beatty is lovable, I get it. We want to like Beatty, but at the same time, he did also have a hand in making that really fucked up bomb that targeted medical people who are trying to help victims of war? That's fucked up, man. And once again, his brain was fully cooked. So, and also, besides that, I think there's so many other reasons to hate Gale. Like the fact that he forcefully kissed Katniss without her consent. And like, I know she didn't react to it in the moment, but like, and then she also kind of technically kissed him while he was unconscious, which is a little weird in all technicality, but like, it just all seems icky, you know? I don't like any of that. And then whenever she didn't immediately reciprocate his feelings, whenever she was just trying to survive and was basically like, I can't even know what I'm feeling right now because the only thing I'm feeling is scared, he was like, oh, well, I fucking see how it is, and basically stormed off like a little bitch. And he was going to leave Peeta behind. The literal walking embodiment of love and happiness and warmed baked bread? How fucking dare you? I literally couldn't even get that sentence out. I was so flabbergasted. Fuck. And like, obviously, Gale did some good things for Katniss, and that was one of the reasons why their relationship lasted as long as it did. I mean, relationship, not like legitimate, but you know what I mean. The only reason she put up with this bitch for so fucking long was because he was helping her and her family survive, and he knew that that's why whenever he figured that she thought he was responsible, or even had a tiniest little thought in her head that he was responsible for Prim's death, that he had no fucking chance. And I do respect him for that, for walking away. I do respect him for that. But it's kind of like, okay, bud, you've done a couple decent things, but come on now, come on. It's like hearing your bestie in a situationship being like, I don't even know what like an example would be. I can't even. Because, like, yeah, he isn't the worst guy alive, but again, it feels like that guy that you keep hearing about that your bestie is in a situationship, and every time you get an update, you have to roll your fucking eyes, because it's always, well, he did this for me, or I owe him, or whatever, or, oh my god, he's going through a hard time. Which, don't get me wrong, girly pop, it's the Hunger Games series. Everybody's going through a hard time. But I just feel like that's why there's so much, like, visceral hate for this man, is because you get to see the betrayal that Katniss feels on a very personal level. Whereas obviously you get to see the actions that Snow takes and how it, like, affects people, but nobody's questioning whether or not Snow is a bad person. He literally gets executed in the end. Well, kind of. He does at least die in a properly satisfying way, whereas Gale gets to go have his fuck off happy ending. And I also wonder if that's part of it too, Because even in President Snow's book, right? Songbirds and Snakes, he is such an obvious person to hate. I've made this point before actually on TikTok where I said that it is really obvious that Suzanne Collins did not write Snow as a sympathetic character. And one of the biggest things that I have as proof of that is that every other book in the series, all other 4 books, including Sunrise on the Reaping, are in first person. Songbirds and Snakes is in third person, limited third person, but still in third person. You are not in Cornelius Snow's head. You are watching him. You are observing him like a fucked up little snake in a terrarium. Like, that's that's the vibe, right? Is you're like, oh no, oh fuck. Like, the entire series, or the entire book, the entire series of events that occurs, and yikes. Because he can't go a fucking chapter, Snow, whenever you're reading that book. Like, he can't go a chapter without reminding us how much he hates district people, or that he's using the whole plant family for his own fucking gains, or how he acts like he literally owns Lucy Gray, or, maybe literally kills someone just for some flavor, Whereas I think that Gale has a lot more personal hate from the fandom, because I could understand, at least in the first book, maybe even a little bit in Catching Fire, why some people were Team Gale. Even some parts of Mockingjay, okay? I'm gonna walk behind enemy lines here because I have 100% of the time been a PETA girl. But I will sympathize. I will use my empathy skills to understand. Because, yeah, there are a lot of times where he was genuinely heroic and he helped Katniss in ways that she needed. But there were also enough times where he really didn't, that it kinda evens out. Again, I keep thinking of the bestie metaphor. I think that's like my best argument for this. It feels like you have just been listening to your bestie go on and 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 on about this guy, right? And she keeps presenting evidence of either good or bad, but like a lot of the bad is piling up, babe, And like I can just imagine, right? Like like reading the books, but instead of it's like a bestie catch up session where she like tells you about the things that happened in District 2, and she's like, girl, then he had the idea to shut off the ventilation systems in the nut. And you would be like, oh my god, isn't that exactly like a coal mining accident? She's like, yeah. And wasn't that so triggering for you? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, girl, girly pop, you have to go. This man is not the one for you. This man is not the one for you. He may be the one to win the war, but he might not be the one for you. And I feel like that's also a good distinction. Is Gale is in a lot of ways a necessary character, but he is not necessary for Katniss once the war is over. He is the wartime mentality. I actually want to do a whole video about that, of comparing PETA and Gale and their symbolism and all of that kind of stuff, because I love a good symbolism talk. And Suzanne Collins loves her symbolism, and that's one of the reasons why I love her. Anyway, to summarize, yes, Snow is a dictator, but the internet did really conveniently forget that whenever he was played by an attractive white man. I didn't forget that. I remember some of the first media I saw, because admittedly, I had kind of fallen out of the Hunger Games fandom for a little bit. Not necessarily because I didn't like it, I just wasn't really like in the know about everything. So when Songbirds and Snakes, the movie, and like the promo and stuff came out, the first things I saw were edits of Coriolanus Snow. And I remember my shock hearing that some of y'all were down bad for the arguably worst person ever in fiction. Maybe not quite, but like, The book literally ends with him maybe killing his romantic interest, because he thought she was going to rat him out. Peeta would fucking never. Okay? Would Gale? The fact that I'm hesitating if Gale would do that, actually. And that's why we don't like him. And that's why we don't like him. This does just feel like a bestie session where I'm like just hashing it out about like, and then he did this, he forcefully kissed her, I fucking know, right? How fucking dare he? And she's still considering whether or not she should go with him as a romantic interest. It's stupid. She literally, and that's another thing. Imagine hearing all of this shit from your bestie. Even before the prim bomb drops, and she has the embodiment of sunshine and rainbows wrapped up in a perfect muscular case knocking at her fucking door every day. But she's too busy looking out the window at this motherfucker. You know, that definitely doesn't help anything. So in summary, hating Snow feels like almost hating a force of nature. It's like something, like he becomes so powerful and we get to see his rise to power and all that, but especially in the original series itself, it just feels like he's so untouchable and he's so universally hated even by the people he's close to that talking about hating him doesn't even feel like it's accomplishing anything, whereas Gale feels fucking personal. Gale feels like it's that motherfucker that has been slowly draining the life out of your best friend, right? Because yeah, he's not like the worst person in the world, but like, who are you more likely to talk shit about for an hour and a half? An actual dictator who exists in our real world? Or your bestie's toxic ex, who she still needs to process some bit about, you know? Anyway, if you liked this, cool. I hope that you did. I'm going to be posting some more Hunger Games stuff. I'm going to be posting a video about Hunger Games theories as well. I actually might go ahead and record that, so if I'm in the same clothes, mind your fucking business. Yeah, I'm excited about this YouTube channel. I'm going to start posting bi-weekly, as in once every 2 weeks, not as in twice a week. That would fucking kill me. I'm also going to be starting a Patreon. I've had it for a little bit, but I'm going to start actually being active on there. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be offering for perks, but if you want to be involved in determining what that will be, go ahead and click down below. Also hit subscribe if you want to see my face more, if you want to hear my voice more. I'm going to be talking about more than just Hunger Games stuff. I like to talk about philosophy and other things in general, but I also like to talk about my current hyperfixations, and this just happened to be one that scratched my brain at the right time. So if you're someone who wants to come along for that ride, buckle up, hit subscribe, let's go. Bye! Did it. I filmed my first fucking video!